Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. This is the first in a new series called Hedaux, Hogg and the Machines, and I have a co-host, Ed Hogg. How are you doing, Ed?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Simon.
Welcome back, because I know we've been on a couple before. I think February 2025 was the last time we spoke about all things AI. So we're going to do this every 4 to 6 weeks. It's a fast-moving environment. Every day something new seems to change or happen, but hopefully we can enlighten you. I will keep it simple. Ed will make it complex. And Ed, I will promise to draw you back out of complexity anytime I don't understand what's going on.
I think that's probably needed.
Good. For those that may have not listened to the February one, do you want to give us a bit of background on yourself and Solved by AI?
Yeah, so I'm Edward Hogg. I'm the CEO of Solved by AI. I founded Solved by AI, which is an AI forecast and then decide business in Edinburgh in 2020. And we have a team of data scientists who focus on solving problems using artificial intelligence in retail and hospitality. And one of the things that we really focus on is using AI for productivity. And that means that we are very much spending most of our days looking at the latest models, looking at what our customers are doing, what our partners are doing with AI in order to be more productive and save money and increase revenue.
And before Solved by, what were you involved with? What were you up to?
So I used to work in high-level motorsport. I used to work for Bentley, designing race cars there, and then I worked in workforce management as well. So working in the shop works on retail workforce management. So that's my background. The motorsport being the more interesting of it.
Exactly. Not to do WFM a discredit, but yeah, I'd take motorsport over WFM any day. Sorry to all those WFM geeks out there, but it's just the way it is. So 18 months ago we chatted. Wow, I mean, AI's moving, a lot happens in 18 minutes and 18 seconds, let alone 18 months, doesn't it? So give us a bit of a state of the nation of, if I'm working in retail, hospitality, any customer-facing environment, what's the state of the nation now in AI? Because we hear about Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, and all the others that I've missed out because there's way too many to mention. Where are we? What's happening?
Yeah, I guess let's start on the big three, which is OpenAI, Anthropic, and then in most people who work in British retail, Gemini is also up there. So in 2025 February, we had 4.0, Sonnet 3.5 from Claude, and then Gemini 2.0 Flash. And those were roughly 128,000 token models, which were outputting roughly 16,000 tokens.
Just explain a token. I'll stop you. Go on, explain a token. This is my first one. I'm pulling you back.
It didn't take as long, did it? So a token is basically a way of the AI breaking down a word. All LLMs or large language models that these are break down the text that you put into tokens, and you can split out words. If you think of hello, that's probably the right size for a token. It's that's probably a relatively simple set of 5 letters that the AI can understand, always means one consistent thing. If you think of a word like unbelievable, that tends to have 3 tokens in it, with your describing some parts, and then believable being broken up into two different parts of it, depending on which model you're using. And what's really important about tokens is that that's where the AI gets its context from. So it's looking at comparing what tokens you've put in to then outputting the next token that it thinks, or the most likely token. That's how you get your response. And they have fixed sizes of how big the input can be and how big the output can be. And we used to, 18 months ago, be on 128,000 tokens, which is roughly the size of the Hobbit novel. And we used to be able to output 16,000 tokens, which is roughly the word count in this podcast times 2. It's roughly a 60-minute podcast length written down. And now, ChatGPT 5.6, the most recent models from Claude, particularly Opus 5, they are, and also Flash, which was Flash 3, which was released by Google very recently. They are million token inputs, 128,000 outputs, which means that ChatGPT 5.6 is the best example, is able to take in all of the Harry Potter series and will be able to write an 8th book in terms of the number of tokens, which is great if you are particularly into writing works of fiction, but doesn't really relate to retail. So to come back to that, you've now got these models which are able to take in large amounts of context and thousands of Word documents, PowerPoint, spreadsheets, PDFs, pictures, and they are all multimodal, and they're able to take those in and use a wider breadth of skill to make higher quality things for us, such as spreadsheets that have the calculations embedded within them, that have been tested, that we've done the work on, such as design a PowerPoint based off of some example design that's in a PowerPoint already with this text and all of these documents. And that can be really useful in retail. And all these LLMs are also a lot better at acting like humans in responding. And so they've all been taught off of the many chats that we've had with customers. And since 4.0, you've had lots of examples of people converting audio files. They may be examples of customers speaking to managers, or complaints from customers phoning into the service desks, or podcasts, or other examples of human interacting with human. And now the responses that they can give are much more human-like, to the point where a lot of the interactions you have online with customer service are AI, even if it feels like you're speaking to a human.
They're becoming quicker, more intelligent, can handle multi-complex pieces of data from multiple different formats and different points. Is that fair?
Yeah. So if you look at the most recent ChatGPT models, you've got Soul that is deep reasoning and can go off and can spend an hour taking into account everything and reason. But you can also use Terra and Luna to get back answers that would have taken 20 minutes a year and a half ago in 10, 20 seconds, having taken into account all of the context you wanted to take into account. So, yeah, it's making a massive difference. Gemini Flash is designed to do that. 3.6 is so quick doing that. You aren't able to output as many tokens with Gemini 3.6, but you're still talking about being able to output half the Hobbit, which is enough to generate roughly 240 pages of a Word document or a PDF, depending on the kind of context and quality of that document. So it's more than enough for most people to be able to use and get a really good response that enables them to be more productive.
And I suppose the warning signal that goes up when you talk through that around consuming PowerPoints, Excels, all those other bits of company information is, where's it going? Who's it sharing it with? How do you make sure it's secure? I know kind of our internal rethink one, we've got the not training any data with outside of the business, but there must be genuine concerns that everybody's teaching the machines to be more intelligent.
Yeah, I guess there's two sides to that. So the first side is that some businesses don't have the setting of don't use my data to train. And therefore, there are examples of entire trading algorithms from large hedge funds in the US ending up in the training data for these models. And so that is 20, 30 billion pounds worth of alpha to those businesses just being stolen, which is and being used to train, which when we think about our own work, it could be harmful. There could be strategies, there could be things that we don't want to get out, which could the models to be training on and reinforcing and repeating back to other people when they ask for it. So all of our hard work to be given to somebody else. But all three of the kind of ones we've talked about, so ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, if you're using Copilot within Microsoft, they all have it now basically in the enterprise version as standard not to train on that data and to go and get that data from somewhere else. There are a number of enterprises that are using their own open source models. And so open source means where an organization has developed it and then they allow you to host that or work on it yourself. So they make it public what the weights of their model are. And the weight is the little bit inside each AI node, which tells you how to connect with other nodes in terms of multiplying and reducing numbers. And what it means is that you can go and run a fraction of the cost. I think somebody was telling me that the difference between using Opus 5 and an open source model is like 100th of the cost. And so you're saving an awful lot of money there. But 9 of the 10 best in the world were developed in China, and it is not public what training data that they used. And therefore, it is entirely possible that those models could have backdoors encoded into them that would allow them to take your data when you're running it. And while they've been security tested to an extent, we will never know very specifically as to what level they've been. So you really do need to be careful about what you're putting into these models, especially if you're using some of the ones which are open source or haven't been security tested by a large number of organizations.
Yeah, makes sense. Yes, it feels like at the moment people might not be quite sure where it's going, so they're either hesitant to put it in or they're putting it in and it's going somewhere to train. But yeah, that whole open source thing, great, you get it at a reduced cost, but do you really know what's wrapped around it, I suppose, is the risk, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if you're like a critical infrastructure. I was speaking yesterday to a hospital, and they were talking about the fact that they will never be able to use it because the very, very small chance that the model has been trained off, if you are a hospital and this infrastructure diagram gets uploaded to it, it becomes a security risk. And so that kind of stuff is really scary to organizations. And so, yeah, you're that in enterprises, in the businesses that tend to be focused on productivity and listen to this podcast. I don't think we're going to see open source models in those businesses for a very long time.
Okay, so in retail head offices, what kind of things are you seeing happening now? Where are people pushing the boundaries?
Yeah, so I think in terms of in head offices, Copilot is probably the most interesting example. So in Copilot, you now have access to all of the top models. And the way that Copilot charges is that it does it based off of the complexity of the task that you're sending. And most organizations who are using Copilot have still got those enabled because it comes as default on. And so businesses who are using that in retail are able to give area managers, those kind of tools to be able to produce really high quality reports. So yesterday I was in the Hedaux shopping centre in Sheffield and was talking with an area manager who was showing me that every Monday morning they have an agent which they have built in Copilot that uses ChatGPT 5.6 to go and get all of their spreadsheets in terms of EPOS sales from the last week, all of their customer feedback stories, all of their actions, promotional marketing material for the week, to send the Monday morning email automatically to their staff members, particularly their store managers, that goes, here are the 5 things that you need to focus on in your store particularly, and here's the 5 things that we as a business are focusing on this week, and these are the kind of things that you need to be telling your staff. And that is completely automatic and is great. And that, I love it. It's a really good use of AI. That is exactly the kind of thing that empowering head office staff and area managers to be doing in retail is really positive. the problem is that it's not going to last forever. So people who are using those big models are spending about 1,000 more credits, which is the way that Copilot works out the cost of the tokens you're sending in than you are if you're doing some of the basic tasks. So if you, for instance, were having a conversation with Copilot and going, can you tell me what the weather is going to be like in Winchester on Saturday, it will go through and do that very quickly for a very small amount of credits. But because when we use the bigger models, we are throwing in more complex stuff. It already charges you 100 times more in Copilot and is 100 times the number of tokens you use, and people are using a lot more tokens per query. And so most enterprise businesses will get to a point in the very, very near future where the CTO will be stopping them from having access to it. And to be honest, the small and middle models are able to do those kind of functions. You'd still be able to do that Meadowhall area manager example with some of the smaller models. But it is just worth being aware that in Copilot, some of the models won't be available to you in your organization.
So that's head offices. And again, lots of press around people then opening up AI to colleagues on the shop floor. In retail, I think we've got a few examples there that you want to work us through.
Yeah, so I guess very recently, the Argos sale, so they have been sold to an organisation that is coming in with the concept of we're going to put AI in all of our stores. They are retail turnaround guys who specialise in putting AI in the hands of staff. And if you look at some of the examples, in the US, we've got kind of Lowe's who are doing this expertise in the worker's hand, this kind of chat tool that people are able to access and work through that kind of concept of what is the problem that you're after, chat with the bot, get an example of it, and they call it My Lowe companion, and it's now in 1,700 of their stores. And then Walmart are putting every single staff member, all 2.2 million of them, on a literacy course for AI, and so that every single staff member should be able to take advantage of AI at some point in their journey, and that makes a massive difference in terms of being able to take advantage of it. In the UK, Tesco have got the 280,000 colleagues training their agents. So they basically gave their customer assistant, shopping assistant, to all of the staff, including their. It's got meal planning, and it's got like dietary preferences, and what would you do with leftovers, and how would you go about building a basket for me. And it's giving it to colleagues to test, and those colleagues are on the shop floor and testing them. And that is a really cool use of AI, and part of the Tesco's development progress on it. And then M&S have also got 11,000 Copilot licenses for all of their store managers and store support colleagues. And the proposed use is like the morning huddles, like sales insight stuff. One question that is of interest is how often that's going to get used. So buying those Copilot licenses, giving every Tesco's employee those tools, 2.1 million Walmart staff. How many shop floor staff are regularly going to be on their phone interacting with the AI rather than either doing the role interacting with the customer, which most staff will still walk you around a store as to which aisle the item is when you go and ask them, rather than querying it on the app or pointing you towards the app. And then the other thing is the majority of tasks that are done by shop floor staff are physical, and that is more of a robotics thing, and that isn't coming for a while. humanoids are like they're being worked on in AI, and there's a lot of AI humanoid work going on, and particularly in terms of the idea of being able to replenish things or do the washing up or do the in a cafe or do the ironing or dry cleaning, but most of the demos for those are in the very early stage, and I think we've still got a while to go, and a lot of capital investment by Silicon Valley to make that real.
And I think it was yesterday I was reading on LinkedIn, Tesco's are trialing a robot that moves around the store, counts the gaps, and is more accurate in terms of replen. So there's bits that are teasing through, but they feel like they're really 1-2 shop trials at the moment. Obviously, cost of implementation across an estate is significant at that type of scale, but people seem to be more accepting of dipping their toe in the water and having a go as they're finding ways. I think all of this comes back to some of the wider stuff we talk about on the podcast of managing cost pressure, national living wage, NI, all the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you presume that it's a staff member at head office is on somewhere around £40,000 to £45,000, and you could use a £4,000 to £5,000 AI tool to replace 90% of their work, that is the calculation that everybody in Silicon Valley who's betting on ChatGPT and Claude being $1 trillion businesses is hoping comes true. We have yet to see that properly. There is a lot that it can do, but most of the labour costs are still in the physical world, and the replenishment, the driving the lorries to sites, the distribution centres, and while robots are making a difference, they're still quite a way away from being able to do that. So AI is slowly doing it, but we're talking inches rather than miles here in terms of the speed or the distance in which AI is going to saving those costs, while those pressures are moving at a significantly faster rate.
Yeah, and there have been organisations recently that have done some head office job round cuts and used we're moving more to an AI approach on that. Those calculations will be interesting. I think there's some stuff and some intelligence that you're always going to need that expertise. So we shouldn't be too scared at this moment in time. And Ed, just to finish off this first episode, we'll speak again in kind of 4 to 6 weeks' time. Is there anything you can see pending on the horizon that you think we'll be talking about on the next episode?
Yeah, so Sam Altman is at the White House again this week to talk about ChatGPT 6, and that model is in theory so much better than 5.6, and then so that'll be really interesting. And then there is rumours that at least 2 or 3 of the US and European open source models will become available in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and it'll be really interesting to see where those are, because those will be developed under the eye of the US and EU governments, and therefore in theory will be capable of being used by enterprises, because there is no fear that your data is being taken back by an adversarial actor. So yeah, those are the kind of 2 things that I'll be watching. And then also in terms of the time series forecasting world, the world that I spend most of my time in, there's a few more LLM based models, and the next steps of those models that are rumored to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be really interesting to see how much improvement they bring to the time series forecasting, particularly in new stores, which is a problem that it would be really nice for everybody to have, and when we relocate to different places. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I'm watching in terms of the AI world over the next 6 weeks.
Perfect. Well, thanks. Enjoyed the first episode. I think it's safe to say the machines aren't taking over quite yet. We've not entered Terminator world, but I think they're here to help if you can harness the data safely in the correct way. So thanks again, Ed, and we will catch up on the next episode.
Thanks, Simon.